The little mini hill always gets me. But we are now out at Yard 51. So all of those splits that you saw us make, we ended up adding the queens. We added them at night in the dark at about midnight with just the lights from our truck trying to shine the way as we put them all in and set them all up. But they should all have their queens released by now. We did put on some masking tape and then poked a little hole in it just to give them a little bit extra time for them to actually get used to the queens, because usually I would wait until they create queen cells and I'd go and tear down all the queen cells, but that's a lot of work to do, honestly, when you're trying to do it across 200 splits. So we decided just to add the queen cages and the queens in immediately with the masking tape. So we're gonna see if they actually got accepted and if they're doing all right. Casey's a little bit nervous because he had a couple that he did the day after at our house and that he found them balling their queen. So hopefully they accepted them. I don't see why they wouldn't. We're solid? They must have liked her. They propolized it down. Oh, she's still in here. She hasn't figured her way out yet. So usually I like to wait a full 7 days before I go into the nukes or the hives that I'm introducing queens to, just because you have to be really careful that you don't stress them out, because that could actually cause them to reject their queen. But since Casey said that he saw a couple of the hives at the house balling the queens, well, you know, we got scared because queens, they aren't cheap. We spent a couple grand on all of these queens, so it's pretty important that they do get accepted and that they do well. There are people that will lose 40% of their queens, and that really adds up when you're paying around $30 to $45 a queen. So I know what it feels like when you open up a hive a week later and it's like she was never there. But over the last 6 years, I've figured out what actually makes the difference. And, you know, it's not what you would actually think. So I'm going to show you what changed my success rate and my attitudes towards queen introductions. Oh, calm. So the reason we're not using smoke is we don't want to stress them, which we honestly shouldn't be checking all of these. We should just check a couple. So I don't want to stress them and make them reject her. So most failures aren't about the method, they're actually about timing, colony condition, and the tiny overlooked details, starting with the time of year that you are introducing a new queen. So the spring is naturally the easiest time to introduce a queen to the colony because this is their natural swarming season. So that being said, colonies expect to raise or accept a new queen anyways because they're biologically primed to accept queen changes because it's a part of their natural reproductive cycle. So introducing a queen during this time feels completely normal to them. On top of that, in the spring, you often have a high brood production, which also means more nurse bees. Nurse bees are the ones that are easier to accept queens rather than your older foraging bees, because for the young bees, they may not even remember the old queen that they had, whereas the foragers, you know, they're loyal to their original queen. Also, they prioritize their population growth over defense. So they're focused on expanding the population and resources. So that means there will be less aggression and more flexibility, leading to perfect conditions for queen introduction. In contrast, late summer and fall bees are more defensive and protective of their resources and their hierarchy. So it's a lot harder to get them to accept a queen later in the year. Oh, there she is. Right there. So they're still small. I think we're good, though. We can check one more of this for... Oh, see, I have something I like. Like I said, I don't want to stress them out.
That's fine. I just needed to know. Because,
yeah, I think they're doing good.
Good.
So the only thing I don't like about these Pro Nukes so far is not all of the lids fit on here very well. So, like, I have to, like, put my nail under here and then like tuck it and push it through. Some of the lids kind of stay up. Maybe they just need to be broken in, I don't know. But other than that, I've been liking them. They're easier for stacking on the truck. Another key factor to think about when introducing a new queen to a colony is whether or not they have any resources or food coming in. It's often really beneficial to feed your colony when you are introducing a queen because you're kind of like tricking them in a way by, giving them more food. But also, introducing a queen during a dearth or a period with little or no nectar or pollen available is super risky because the colony's mindset shifts from growth to survival, and that makes them far less accepting of any changes, especially a new queen. Because hungry bees are very aggressive. I'm sure you guys have seen in the fall time that the bees will just light you up when there's no more resources in the environment. It makes them defensive, stressed, and suspicious. And during that time, the colony is not focused on raising brood. Oftentimes, the workers will go around and devour some of the eggs that the queen was laying. So remember how I mentioned that it's very beneficial to have more nurse bees than foragers for good queen acceptance? Well, that completely flips in a dearth. There's going to be more foragers in the hive because they weren't able to produce as much brood because they didn't have enough food to feed all of the new mouths, let alone feed their own. Just use the cages as a way of saying they're accepted. I don't think we see them. Because they also very well, just because we see them in here, this is why I wanted to wait until they're laying, just because we see them doesn't mean they're actually accepted, because they could just let her lay a frame and then kill her and make a queen cell out of her eggs. We've seen that before too.
Yeah, I'm just saying is if we leave the cage in there and they'll start building comb and stuff and change the way the comb is shaped around the cage.
Then we'll know she's accepted.
But it'll also mess up the comb where the cage is at.
Not if we wait till Saturday. I just want to wait until she's laying.
Okay.
So I was like, I just want to wait. I don't think it'll change that much over the next 2 days. That, at least I hope she's laying. Do you think she'd be laying by Saturday? Today's Wednesday.
That one over there is already laying.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
These ones weren't.
Did you see any, like, even a little small circle yay big? Because that's about what she has right now.
I guess I didn't look hard enough. I mean, what do you think? That's why I'm asking you.
Okay, let me go through one over here.
But the drone can't fit. It's trying to fit in that little gap and it can't.
It hasn't learned to go up and under yet.
No. It's getting its butt stuck. Ooh! Yeah, that one's a little too strong.
One of the ones I made.
Yeah, Casey made them very strong. They didn't need to be that strong, but that's okay. We can equalize. So like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, in the past, what I used to do is I would make up a split and then I would give them about 5 days for them to make queen cells, and then I'd tear them down and then introduce my mated queens. Well, there's a couple reasons why I decided to change my methods on this. The number one thing being that it's just a lot of extra work, and at the rate that we're trying to grow, sometimes you need to be able to be more efficient. But one thing that I've noticed is bees are able to know that they're queenless pretty fast. They honestly know within 2 to 4 hours that they don't have any queen pheromones in the hive. So within really 12 to 24 hours, the bees will actually start making queen cells. And once they start doing this, it is really hard to get them out of that. Once they start making queen cells, they are loyal to their own genetics and will just keep trying to make queen cells. Now, I specifically made up these splits to not have any eggs or any larvae in them, to only have capped brood and resources, so that even though I am adding in queens, I did add in queens 2 hours after making these, that they wouldn't start trying to make queen cells from anything that they have. So I made it so they had absolutely nothing to even try to make queen cells with. And on top of that, since I did use capped brood and I tried to pick frames that was going to be emerging within the next day or two, when all of those newbies emerged, they found a new queen that they thought was their queen, because it's the only queen they've ever known, so that they're more able to accept that queen. So I was trying to view it as adding a queen early would allow her pheromones to stabilize the colony quickly. So it was going to be able to keep the workers in a cooperative and organized state rather than waiting too long and their internal clocks having to reset They're chemically and behaviorally on a new trajectory.
You guys watched the last video. I talked about how I was making up these splits, and the way I made them up, in theory, is supposed to prevent them from creating queen cells and also from rejecting her, because they had nothing else to work with except for her and the capped brood that they had.
Yeah, but they'll still do some really crazy stuff with cat brood.
I know, bees can be bees.
They really can be.
Wow, I am very impressed. So we just went through yard 51. This is where we have 50 of our splits that we just did with the mated queens. A lot of them are Carniolans. We also have some Cordovans and some Italians too. But I am super impressed. So one, these queens must have been fire. And then two, I think we nailed down exactly what we need to do in order to get the best acceptance rate. Out of 50, we have only lost, you said 3 or 4? We've only lost 3 out of 50. I think that's like a 96% success rate, something like that. I'll put it up on the screen. But yeah, so what we did was we tried to make sure that every single split only had capped brood. Now you guys did see that I did break down the hunting yard. So trying to do only capped brood, of course, there's probably going to be some eggs in there, but they were at this stage where they had more capped brood than anything else anyways, so that kind of worked out in my favor. Next thing is I also was watching the weather. The weather is the biggest thing. If you're putting queens into hives when it's nasty weather, it's supposed to rain a lot and it's going to be cold, they're most likely not going to accept her. So I tried to target a day that we were going to have a couple warm days. We did have one colder day. That was the day that these queens were probably coming out of their cages, but I guess it still worked. And 3, I stole this from Bob Binney and it works. Thank you, Bob. You have the best advice, I swear. I wish that I had met you in person, but you know, I watch your videos. But he uses masking tape on the queen cages. So we did exactly that, poked a little tiny hole in them. And actually the bees took off the masking tape. I thought they were going to eat through it, but they actually just completely took it off before they started going into that candy. So that gave them an extra day. And yeah, guys, we did really good on this run. I'm impressed that we had so many queens actually make it. So we still have one more yard that we do have to go through. We're calling that the glass yard. It's a new yard to see how they did out there, but overall I'm pretty happy. I'm actually really happy with how these did. So we are at our new yard, glass yard, and we have so many nukes here. It makes me so happy to see them all in a line. And we're going through verifying queens, and so far everything's been looking good. All the ones with the queen cage on top means that they were accepted, and look, like every single one of them so far. Casey had to actually stop and go put his suit on. He doesn't take stings as well as he used to anymore. Turns out that when you get healthy,
Stings hurt more.
yeah. You didn't find any eggs already? Oh no, I jinxed it.
No, I found eggs.
Oh, you found eggs? Okay.
I'm just making sure they're not doing anything crazy dumb.
Oh, I haven't been looking through all of them. Wait, turn that around. Did they just draw that out? That looks weird. It looks like new comb. Interesting.
The hive that they came from drew it out.
They are bringing in a little bit of something. We're starting to see the dandelions start to bloom. The trees are starting to get a little bit of their leaves. So I'm thinking that the wild cherries and crab apples are going to be blooming at the end of the week. So now that we're at 8 days past when we introduced these queens, all of these queens have been released and are lying. So it is so much easier to be able to figure out if she was accepted, because all I gotta do is just look for eggs. Oh yeah, she's laying. I've noticed too, is at the last yard, not all of the nukes were on the ground, but the ones that were on the ground are a little feisty.
think they're exposed to some more pressures and stresses that the ones that are off, ouch, the ones that are off the ground aren't necessarily exposed to.
And they have super accepted the queen.
Oh, I had one like that too. Oh yeah, they super accepted her and the fact that they do come like that. Some of these make me a little worried though, because they're making cups. Some of these make me worried though, because they're making cups. And one of them laid into a cup, not in this hive, but two hives back there.
They might tear it down.
No, she had just laid into the cup probably today. Now that the weather is going to be good, meaning it's going to be consistently in the 50s and 60s, like upper 50s and then 60s. She's going to have this whole box laid up pretty quick. Actually, so quick we might run into some problems. Oh yeah. Z's Bees has great queens. So, out of 50, only 2 was rejected. I'm pretty happy with that.
So what, 5 out of 105?
Yeah, 5 out of, well, technically 100 and, well, we haven't checked the other ones. So we technically got 107. The other ones, honestly, I won't be surprised if they got rejected. I probably should have did a little bit more planning for the pumpkin yard because it was hives that the queen wasn't really laying how I wanted her to anymore. So I just pinched her and put a new queen in right away. So, or there was another one. It was ones that the queen was clearly failing. So I mean, I guess we'll see. But at least out of 100, only 5. So that's 95% success. It's pretty good. I can live with that. Okay. Well, neat. All right. So Casey had me double check because, you know, always double check your work. And actually, I found like 10 queens. Or 10 queens. 10 eggs. So, wait, he said the one with really cute. Oh, this one right here. Okay. So I think she just started laying. She's a little bit behind the rest of them. I have one more that he's going to have me check. Okay. So he said there's a queen cell in this one. But okay, so now we're back at only 1 out of 50 in this yard. Now let's see about this one. Some of these, they just started laying. And the bees are coating the frame, so it's kind of hard to tell. This cell's not going to be viable, but I'm not seeing anything. You can tell it was an old.
Yeah, it might be old.
Like it's not going to be like
Yeah, but leave it alone for right now because
larva.
it'll give us a couple days. So they won't go there and work with that cell there.
Yeah, that's going to be harder to get them to accept a new queen, so actually it'd be better if we got rid of it. Depends on how long you want to wait till we combine them. I'd rather them be hopelessly queenless.
It's also worth noting, remember when I split all of these hives down at the hunting yard, I couldn't find 3 of the queens. The reason I say this is when I was making up these splits, I was putting a frame from this hive, a frame from this hive, because I was making them up a certain way. So if a queen got put into one of these splits and it had a bunch of different bees from different hives, they very well could have balled one of those queens, then making them have that impulse to ball any other queen that does come into their hive. So that could contribute to why we've lost 4.
To be fair, they might join other nukes. They might just be bored and join other nukes. So you'll end up with like a couple of really pumped up hives.
Yeah, we already have some pumped up hives. Pretty much all of these right here are pumped up.
Beekeeping will humble you, especially when it comes to getting queens accepted. You can do everything right and still watch your hive reject her. But every failure teaches us something, and after a lot of trial and error, I think we've finally cracked the code. The success we're seeing now proves that persistence seriously pays off, and the bees are teaching us more than we ever imagined.
All right, well, I guess 1 in 50. That's not too bad, though.
No.
I'm not upset about that.
No, I'll take it. Right, you can throw these in my hand. I couldn't. I couldn't keep them. I don't want to kill them.